Hey guys, welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Andre Siggers, and this time we're joined by Derek Binder and Ash Paulson to discuss what's in store for Nintendo's future in 2016. So, let's get started. Alright guys, so we just wrapped up our year in review for 2015, and I thought we'd look ahead to 2016 and see what we know is coming down the pike, and maybe theorize what we don't know could be coming down the pike, and maybe more of what we hope to see. So far, we actually know about a fair amount of releases coming to both Nintendo's platforms. For the Wii U, we know Twilight Princess HD is coming, Star Fox Zero, Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, Pokken Tournament, and Zelda Wii U. Hopefully that doesn't get delayed again. And then on the 3DS, we have Hyrule Warriors Legends, Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, in the US at least, Fire Emblem Fates, Metroid Prime Federation Force, and Mario Sonic at the Olympic Games again, because we can't get enough of that game. So, based on what we know so far, that's coming for sure next year. What do you guys think about this lineup? But that's not even touching on the third-party games we know about too, like Final Fantasy Explorers and Sonic Boom, Fire and Ice, and whatnot.
I mean, so far it's a pretty decent list. The start of the year is going to be very strong, I think, between Hyrule Warriors Legends, the US finally getting Paper Jam, and Fire Emblem Fates. I think that's going to be a huge game based solely on how well Awakening did. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people who got into Awakening are very interested in Fates, and the fact that there's essentially two versions, it's going to just increase sales because people are going to want to play both versions. It's just sort of a constant at this point. So it's a very good start. Unfortunately, we don't know that much about the beginning of Wii U's year. The best we know is I think Pokken Tournament is the first one we can expect to come out in the year. Maybe Twilight Princess HD will beat it out, but we're not sure. But it's not until Twilight Princess HD and then eventually Star Fox Zero in April that we get a real sense of what Wii U is capable of. So again, it seems like at least at the start of the year, it's going to be a better year for the 3DS. But by the end of the year, Wii U is going to pick up the slack, is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I mean, looking at the list just kind of on a broad sense, it's actually really pretty impressive. It's not a bad release schedule for at least the first half of the year. And I mean, it seems like third parties are going to kind of pick up the slack as we move into summer. I mean, I don't know exactly when Pokken Tournament's coming, but we have stuff like Dragon Quest 7 and 8 and Bravely Second, Sonic Boom, Fire and Ice. So for the 3DS at least, it does seem like the 3DS will be covered with some fairly major, summer releases. But certainly the first 4 months or so, I mean, it seems like maybe the first big Wii U release, if you could call it big, that the Wii U's getting is Mighty No. 9, which is in February. Of course, that's coming to all platforms. But, and that's maybe not that big a deal, but yeah, I agree that the first few months are stronger for the 3DS, but I do expect the Wii U to pick up the slack in the latter half of the year. Also, I think we should not overlook the fact that February 2016 is also seeing the release of Corrin and Bayonetta in Smash Brothers, which is a pretty big deal. So
there really is almost like a game release in of itself with every Smash character, right?
Yeah. So I mean, there is kind of that strong infusion of of content in the Smash Wii U, which will help Wii U owners through the first couple months of the year. But it's actually not a bad lineup for 2016 so far.
Yeah, so far it's definitely not. And I do think you're right, having that Smash DLC early in the year is going to help fill in some gaps. I'm not sure if I feel as strongly about the Wii U's latter half of the year as you guys do, because so far I think we only really know about Zelda Wii U coming then, right? Everything else seems to be earlier in the year, quite a bit earlier.
Well, we don't have an American or North American release date of Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
I think the best time for that, honestly, is probably during the summer.
I think so too.
I agree.
If it comes out during the fall months, it's going to get overshadowed so quick because it's like, you want to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles X being niche. This is niche. Like, you're going to try to get normal RPG players to get into the concept of J-pop stars being RPG heroes.
Well, speaking of RPGs too, actually, RPG fans have a lot of reasons to be excited for 2016 in terms of Nintendo platforms. Surprisingly so, because Nintendo is not who you really associate with a lot of high-profile RPG releases. But just right now, we already have like Final Fantasy Explorers, Project Cross Zone 2, Fire Emblem Fates, Dragon Quest 7 and 8 3DS, Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. It's a really strong year for RPGs on Nintendo platforms, and that's just what we know about.
Oh, and that's not even taking into account people will still be playing Xenoblade Chronicles X going into
Exactly.
2016.
Yeah.
They'll need all of January to get all that.
They'll need all the year.
Yeah, really.
It's a decent lineup. It's a good start, is probably the best way to put it. And Nintendo certainly has a lot of room to expand and get people excited. As you said, Ash, there's a lot of times they have some sort of direct in the early year to give you a better idea of what's coming for the rest of the spring months, and by E3 we'll know what's coming out for the rest of the year. And speaking of RPGs, as you said, Ash, we didn't get a mainline Pokemon game this year. It's going to happen in 2016.
I agree.
It's very rare that we go 2 years without some kind of mainline Pokemon game.
I think that's a guarantee.
Likely Pokemon Z.
Yeah.
They're already marketing the movie Pokemon X, Y, and Z, so I feel like Pokemon Z, the game, has to be just a matter of time.
Yeah. It's going to happen. We'll probably hear more news about it in February, as that's traditionally when they announce the new Pokemon game for it to come out in November and all that. So that's just, to me, a definite.
So I think, looking at this, I think the Wii U actually has a pretty decent, first half of the year. Because we do have Star Fox Zero, which is finally coming out, and then Twilight Princess HD, which I think will be a big game. And I'm actually really excited to see in the next Direct what other new features that they were talking about are coming to the game. Because there's still some mystery there that they haven't fully resolved yet, so...
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
There generally seems a bit more, more people are into Twilight Princess than Wind Waker, it seems, generally.
How dare they?
Exactly. I mean, I don't say I agree with it, but it does seem like Twilight Princess gets a bigger following, so this should be a generally pretty big game on its own. Plus, there's going to be all the people who maybe weren't into Twilight Princess that are curious how it holds up or how it changes, like all of us.
It has been, almost 10 years since it came out, so...
Yeah, it's a perfect time to just sort of revisit it, and as we said in the previous discussion, pack in Amiibo. It'll do it.
Yeah, really.
They nailed it. I do think it's funny, though, that they are re-releasing it on... They're going from literally their most successful system of all time and re-releasing it on onto their least successful, console of all time. So I wonder how many people are actually going to be new to the game that haven't played it before.
That is actually a very good point I never thought of before, is that Twilight Princess has been released consecutively on 3 different generations. It started on the GameCube, Wii, and the Wii U.
That's a good point.
And now they're reaching the smallest demographic possible.
Yeah, really.
But I think Star Fox will be fun, but I am concerned about its, I don't know if it'll make that big of a dent, though. I do wonder what kind of impact the game's going to have.
I honestly think Star Fox Zero is going to be a drop in the bucket. I hate to say that, but I just don't get the sense that it's going to be anything memorable. It's going to be a good game, I think, but it really does seem to be yet another retread, or at least partial retread of Star Fox 64. So, I think it's going to be a good game, maybe even a great one, but I don't think it's going to be a game that shows up on any best of the year lists, or even as one that's remembered come fall, honestly. Mm-hmm. Maybe even summer. I hate to say that, but I don't know.
I mean, it is a shame, but it just seems like such a regression to have it go back to those 64 days and not continue in any way possible, just so some progression of the series. It's like, no, we haven't been able to figure this game out, so we're going to go back to where we were most successful, which I can kind of understand, but it doesn't excite me at all. Right. It doesn't do anything for me that, people want a more traditional Star Fox. That's great. You're giving us that, but you're giving it to us in the same package we've had before.
Yeah.
Give us new planets. Give us new something. We're getting new vehicles and new takes on these planets that we've already played before, but there's a big galaxy out there. Let us explore it.
Expand the Star Fox universe. I mean, that's kind of what we saw them do with Star Fox Assault. Even though Assault wasn't a great game overall, we saw them do that. Why not give us a game that expands the Lilat system and the Star Fox universe like Assault, but with fantastic gameplay like what we're seeing in Star Fox Zero? I feel like that would be the ideal. I want to be surprised, like you said, Derek. I want to be surprised, yet I feel like everything in Star Fox Zero, from what I've seen so far, is a known quantity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems to be the case. It really does seem like that's a series that's just kind of stagnated. I will give them credit for trying new things with it, even if they didn't work out particularly well. But they're just going back to what they know worked and just restarting from that point, which is disappointing, especially for the game, for the first game in the series in quite a few years at this point now. So it's just too bad they're not doing anything especially new here. But with that said, I'm still personally looking forward to it. Not every game needs to be a game changer, and especially in a game like Star Fox, which has had some questionable entries. Maybe this is the platform they need to reboot to, where they can finally start building on that in the future. Or they'll just continue to reboot Star Fox 64 forever, and we'll never actually move on.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, question for you guys. Do you think Pokken Tournament's going to matter? But I feel like that's such a weird game, and kind of like a complete unknown, really. I mean, unknown not in the sense of what it is, unknown in how it's going to be received on the platform. Because this is a hardcore, kind of like a Tekken-ish, fighting game from Nintendo, really. And that's not even something Smash Brothers really is. I mean, you know what I mean.
No,
right?
I know exactly what you mean.
It's also interesting because depending on its time frame, it might end up coming out around the same time as Street Fighter V, which seems like a bad idea.
That's the only reaction you need. I'm sorry. That was awful of me to do that.
Yeah, I didn't even really think about that before. But the thing is, like, Street Fighter V is obviously not coming to the Wii U. It's not even coming to the Xbox One. So it doesn't even matter that much unless you have people with multiple things. So if you have Pokemon fans out there, they're going to be interested in this game. Right. People seem pretty invested in this and want to see how it's going to go. If they can maintain that audience, though, that is the big question to me. I definitely think people are going to show up in droves to try it out. Sticking around for it, that's what I'm unsure of. I'm not sure if the fighting system is going to be deep enough for that sort of thing. But they are adding more characters, and if they can nail the online and keep people invested, and who knows, maybe even do a Smash Brothers and just keep adding more Pokemon to the roster, they could keep fostering interest in this game. Whether it's going to happen, it's really an unknown at this point.
And they'll never reach a point as they have, well, not quite with Smash Brothers, but like in Smash Brothers, we're always wondering, who could they add next? They've covered all the big bases, and granted, they continue to prove us wrong. But Pokemon, that would never be the case. There's always new Pokemon they can add. They're always adding 150 new ones every few years. I think you touched on something interesting there, though, Derek. Is this the first Pokemon game on Wii U?
Is it?
Wasn't there Pokemon Rumble World for Wii U?
That's true.
This is like some Pokemon Rumble game one.
Yeah, but like, is this the first like big kind of Pokemon? I mean, I feel like this is like different to that, right?
I think it is.
So I wonder if that actually might kind of be all the momentum momentum they need to carry the audience to the Wii U. Like, this is, I don't know. I think that could be a major factor, because when I first think of this game, I'm like, well, it's just an arcade game. Being on the Wii U, I feel like having it be an arcade game kind of takes some of the wind of its sails. Then I remember, oh right, arcades are completely dead here. That doesn't matter in the US. It being a Pokemon game might be a big enough deal in and of itself for this game to be a relative success on the Wii U.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even gotten any type of stadium type game on the Wii U like we did with all the previous generations. This is like you said, our first Pokemon game on the Wii U in any kind of capacity, other than Rumble World, which I don't think that many people will actually count. So it might be big just because of that fact, and people are craving it.
I kind of have a feeling that in terms of the wider fighting game community, I don't think Pokken Tournament is going to be, particularly, I don't think it's going to garner much attention. I think it's probably going to develop a very small, dedicated fan following in that sense. But I think one of the risk factors is, I don't know what was wrong with it, but what I've heard out of Japan, like the location tests in Japan, they haven't really kept the Pokken Tournament machines at a lot of arcades because they haven't performed well. So I don't know if that's due to a general lack of interest in the game or if there are gameplay problems with it. But, depending on what caused that, I mean, if there are gameplay issues that are then brought over into the Wii U version, that could hurt its potential impact as well.
I had heard that. I did read that for one specific location. Did more locations or did more news come out from other locations having similar things? Ash, do you know?
That's what I thought. I think so. Okay. I feel like it was not received that well overall, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I only heard it from the one location. I didn't hear any further about other locations, but it's unknown. This is arcades we're talking about. Right. It's kind of hard to gauge that sort of thing, and they're still pushing it. They're still really showing off these new characters and everything else we're getting. So I have to imagine it's a pretty big priority for Nintendo, Pokemon Company, and Namco Bandai to get this out on the Wii U and into people's hands. I think I think the Wii U is where it's going to really flourish, as far as at least as much as it can on the Wii U. Right.
But I don't think they're going to position it as any sort of competitor to Street Fighter V, because why would they? Like,
No,
there's
that's
no
not
way
gonna
they can
happen.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah, they really can't. That's for sure.
Just can't, yeah.
It is interesting that it is coming with its own controller, though. Its own unique controller.
Yeah.
Is that part of the special edition, I guess, or?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Like,
I
yeah,
didn't hear
because-
about this.
Yeah, I think Pokken Tournament has its own it has its own like traditional like arcade style controller that it's coming with it.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the same one they use in the arcade. I think it looks like just a really stripped down controller. Basically, it's a D-pad and some buttons. So
I don't know why you wouldn't just use the Pro Controller in that case.
Well, maybe for the same reason that most serious Smash players use the GameCube controller. It's just more more comfortable, possibly.
Yeah, better fitting for it. But yeah, maybe.
So, we've been pretty focused on the Wii U so far, and there's still one major game that we haven't really touched on yet, being Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, of course. No, Zelda Wii U, of course. That's, of course, going to be their big holiday hitter, assuming it lands. But, we've talked about Zelda a lot. We even gave its own discussion recently. But I'm wondering, do you think they'll do much else to fill in the gap before then? Because, as far as I can tell, I mean, granted, we don't know when all these games are coming out, but it doesn't look like there's going to be a ton around that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there has to be some Wii U software we don't know about. I think we're gonna find out in, a couple of directs throughout the year, but especially at E3. I mean, this is probably gonna be the Wii U's last full year. So I imagine they have at least something in development for it besides Zelda Wii U. And I do think this is gonna be the year where Retro's next Wii U and probably final Wii U project finally comes to light. Because we didn't hear anything about it at E3 last year.
Well, that's my big question right now about that. Is the NX makes this a lot of future Wii U projects unknown. Will they put it on the Wii U, or will they just sort of like, well, the NX is launching, we'll just make this part of the NX launch lineup? And if you could think about it, like all these potential Wii U games that we could think of, like the fact that Pikmin 4 is being worked on and maybe even close to completion. We don't know anything yet, but they have that. They have the retro game. They have Zelda Wii U. They could just do a thing they did with the GameCube and the Wii version of Twilight Princess, and who knows how much else. Do you put that on the Wii U and try to help that flagging system, or do you use it as a launch title for the NX?
Yeah, I mean, I've long contended Zelda Wii U would come to both platforms, and that's, of course, contingent on the NX actually coming out next year, which, seems to be, like, I feel like that has to be the case, but you never know. It could be 2017. And I guess something else I've been assuming too is I should clarify this. I've been assuming that Zelda will be coming out at the end of next year, but we don't know that for sure, or at the end of 2016. But we don't know that if that's actually the case. It could come out in summer because I mean they did give the impression that the game was farther in development than it seemed. So I don't know. I mean I think it's coming out at the end of the year, but we don't know for sure. So
yeah, I'm more like if it comes out this year, because I can almost see it. Like I've said many times before, we have gotten no information about this thing, other than a few gameplay snippets. We don't have an official name for it yet, and to have it come out in the summer when we know so little about it, that seems insane. And especially since this would be a big holiday title for them. But again, I'm not even sure if it'll come out this year, based on how little we know about it. It could. Of course. I could be completely wrong, and they do a massive marketing push for it once E3 hits, and like, okay, here's everything. They could totally do something like that, but I definitely don't think it's going to come out during the summer. This is definitely their November 21st game.
I mean, yeah, that's what I think too, especially with the fact that I also think it's going to come to the NX as well, in which case it would have to be then at the soonest, but I don't see the NX coming out before the next holiday season, so...
I don't either. I mean, the NX really does throw a wrench into all of our speculation because we don't know really when it's coming, how and what form it's going to come, if they're going to be dual releases for a while as the Wii U is phased out. We know so little, which makes it really difficult to predict anything in terms of the Wii U's release schedule.
Well, and that's exactly why I actually wouldn't be surprised if we don't see much more beyond what we already know is coming to the Wii U. Nintendo historically has been terrible at supporting systems in the year leading up to the next one.
That's true. Yeah.
And at this point, this actually already looks pretty good by that standard. So
that is a good point.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So I really wouldn't be surprised if we actually don't get that much more coming to the Wii U, and they do save everything else for the NX. And that gets back to the point that I forgot before. Touching on what you guys were saying. I think Retro's next game is going to be NX. I cannot imagine it coming to the Wii U. I mean,
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, Retro's one of Nintendo's biggest developers, I think. And I think whatever they're working on, they're going to want it to be on the NX. The only possible way I could see their next game coming to the Wii U is if it's another Donkey Kong game. And I don't mean that disparagingly. I love Tropical Freeze, and I would be okay with another Donkey Kong game. But that would at least be of a scale, I think, that'd be more manageable for cranking out on the system, on the Wii U. I can't imagine them making a brand new IP or the next Metroid only to put it on the Wii U instead of using that potential, building a user base up on the NX.
I do agree with that. I think if they are making Metroid Prime 4, that it's almost certainly going to be an early NX title to really kind of herald the return of Metroid with Nintendo's new hardware. That's kind of how I totally agree with you there. But a new Donkey Kong game could conceivably come to the Wii U. So yeah, I take back what I said about Retro's project, because it does seem more likely for it to be a Wii U game, especially because we didn't hear hide nor hair of them from them the E3 this year.
Yeah, that's true. They've been dark for a little bit now.
Yeah,
just a bit. Yeah, ever since Tropical Freeze was released, but. One of the things, like we mentioned before, that obviously Sonic Boom Fire and Ice is coming out this year at some point, which to me I kind of forgot about it, but I'm also kind of interested in it because they're giving the developers time to really give it some tender loving care, which obviously the previous Sonic Booms did not get as much as they needed it. Sega has sort of loosened their grip on that. But next year is also a big year for Sonic in general. It's his 25th anniversary, and we could see some sort of game. And the question is, will that game come to the Wii U after, obviously they had that short deal with Nintendo where Lost World, the one Mario and Sonic, and Sonic Boom were coming to the system? Or will they try to go as universal as possible by having it on the other systems as well, and potentially the NX if it comes out this year?
I think it'll be a multi-platform game. I absolutely do think there's going to be a new Sonic game announced this year. There's no way they're going to let Sonic's 25th anniversary pass with Sonic Boom Fire and Ice being the only release for that. And Sega and Nintendo are pretty cozy and have been for a long time, so I absolutely could see the next mainline Sonic game, the next tentpole Sonic game, coming to every console, including Wii U. So I don't think it'll be exclusive, but I think it'll be on Wii U for sure.
I do wonder, too, that might explain the lack of I think there was no Sonic game this year, right? No major Sonic game, as far as I know.
Other than mobile titles, not really, no.
Yeah, so do you think they're saving, a big game for their 25th anniversary to maybe try and reinvigorate the Sonic series?
Absolutely.
I think so. Yeah, they have to be. I mean, and I have to say, I am glad that Sega is giving Sunzaru Games another chance with the Sonic Boom 3DS games, just because the first Sonic Boom for 3DS was not bad. It was overshadowed by the Wii U version, which was a mess. But the 3DS game itself wasn't bad. It was actually pretty decent. So I'm glad they're giving them another shot at it.
Yeah, and they've already addressed a lot of the issues people had with it, with way too much backtracking and whatnot in the original Sonic Boom 3DS. So if they can nail this down, and Sanzaru Games has proven themselves to be a pretty good developer, I think this could be a pretty good Sonic game. Sonic Boom game, I should say. And the 25th anniversary is definitely going to be celebrated. In what form it's going to take, nobody knows, because there's so many avenues Sonic has taken over the years. Are they going to go back to adventure gameplay, which
Sonic
is
Spinball,
doubtful.
Baby, it's coming back.
Or are they going to try to refine the Lost World system, or are they going to go back to the system that seemed to get the most recognition as being good in the boost system that Colors and Generations and Unleashed had, where he sort of had this resurgence?
Yeah,
it's really unknown.
It really is. I'm looking forward to seeing how that shakes out, though, because this is definitely a big year for Sonic, and Sonic has historically performed incredibly well on Nintendo hardware. I mean, there's a large contingent of the Sonic fan base is kind of dedicated to Nintendo hardware, so I think there's definitely potential there.
But moving on, and speaking of both retro and forgotten games, Federation Force.
Yeah, Federation Force. So I threw out my prediction before on the Nintendo Direct. I think it was Nintendo Direct, where if they were going to show it again, it would look dramatically different, or at least somewhat different.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to stick with that prediction. I'm not entirely convinced of it myself, but I feel like they have to have maybe retooled it in some way. I do think when we see it again, it will look a bit different. I don't know what exactly they're going to do, but I feel like they're going to take some of that feedback to heart that they got from E3.
I think so,
Yeah.
just because it's so overwhelmingly negative. And I mean, Nintendo does like to stay the course, but even they can't ignore such a just incredibly negative reception. and Metroid Prime got one of the most negative. Maybe it might have been the most poorly received game at E3. Period.
Ever. Oh yeah, I would agree.
Oh
with
yeah,
that probably.
anything associated with Federation Force got disliked to hell.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
we probably just doomed our discussion now to dislike hell.
That's true.
You know? So,
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, at its core, not looking at it as any type of Metroid game, Federation Force looks like it could be fun.
yeah.
And, just having a team-based shooter on the 3DS so you can work together and do different tasks. But the art style and the fact that it was connected to Metroid in no discernible way other than the title really hurt it.
Yeah.
And I really hope they find some way to make this work.
The whole thing just came across as completely tone deaf. I mean, they announced it basically as a soccer game first, and then this is coming, years after we haven't had a Metroid game, and years after supposed teases of one, like Metroid, like Reggie wearing the Samus pin and won the Game Awards. When people were expecting there to be Metroid announced shortly thereafter, and it never came. So. Yeah, the whole thing was just a very misguided effort, and the game itself may very well be fine. Like, I was watching the Treehouse footage, I'm like, this game actually doesn't look bad. It's just that it doesn't necessarily need to be a Metroid game.
Exactly.
And, maybe they could retool it to better fit within the Metroid universe. But that, combined with the fact that our style didn't match at all what we know of Metroid, the whole thing just came across as a completely misguided effort. And I think it would have the potential to damage a Metroid brand name beyond damage already done to it. And I really do hope that they either branch it off as its own IP or really retool it to be more Metroid-like when we see it next. So
I agree. I mean, it actually reminds me a lot of what happened with Silent Hill Book of Memories, which is a game that pretty much no one liked. And it was obviously not a Silent Hill game to begin with, and they kind of forced the Silent Hill name into it and kind of forced those connections and kind of just made it, to try to sell on the Silent Hill name in general. So. And that did a lot of, irreparable damage to the Silent Hill brand,
right.
Including, obviously a lot else. Konami's done everything they could to tank that brand. But, Book of Memories, it was kind of the start of that, or, it was close to it. And, I could see the same thing happening to Metroid. So I really do hope that they kind of go back, or have gone back to the drawing board and either retooled it to better fit within the Metroid universe or, possibly done something else. But I agree that it can't possibly come out as we saw it.
Like, especially with the fact that if Retro is indeed working on Metroid, which who knows, it may not be. But, I feel like that is a brand they would want to protect leading up to a potential NX release of Metroid. They need all the goodwill they can get with that.
Well, they might get a lot more goodwill if they show off.
Actually, that's true. It's like the new Coke, right?
Yeah. They might just turn Federation Force into a completely new IP.
Yeah.
Who knows? That didn't really work too well for Codename Steam, but it might work for this. I don't know. Yeah. Alright guys, we talked for an hour on Nintendo in 2016, so you can look forward to the conclusion tomorrow where we cover the possibility of Mother 3 coming to the US, Nintendo's plans to expand, and what the NX needs to do. So thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And of course stay tuned to GameXplain for more on Nintendo and other things gaming too. Until next time guys, bye.